I'm Robert Young, and I was the lead agent of the largest conspiracy case and the largest cocaine haul in Nashville history. But chasing the good line and making record seizures doesn't come without a price. So I joined the Metro Nashville Police Department in 2007, and I knew from the very beginning that I wanted to do something very exciting. And what more exciting thing can you get than taking a big metal ram and just smashing open a front door, getting all the drugs and all the guns off the street. So I knew to get to that level, to get to the highest level, I'd have to work hard and work my way up to the drug task force. And I was eventually transferred to the 20th Drug Task Force in June of 2014. My very first day at the Drug Task Force was just right up there where I could not have dreamt it any better. It seemed to start off a little bit slow, just putting things on my desk, putting some of my accolades up around my desk. I had 2 big screens, just touring the facility, just really soaking it all in. And myself and the director of the task force, Brent Fiddler, were the only 2 left that evening. I had yet to leave and go home when we received a call to assist another unit. That small call for help turned out where I didn't get home till about 4 o'clock that morning. And what we ended up doing is going to a location of a suspected drug dealer, and there were kilo presses found in his home. So I had been able to locate a set of keys to a Porsche, and we proceeded to seize the vehicle. We took the vehicle back to our Bat Cave, or the Drug Task Force warehouse, began to search it, where we found over $100,000 cash in the trunk of the vehicle. That was my very first day.
Pretty early on, I realized I wanted to get into narcotics work. And as such, I did, first as an officer and then as a supervisor. And in that capacity, I had the chance to work with the guys from the 20th Judicial District Drug Task Force on some cases. Got very interested in the stuff that they did, the longer term, more complex investigations. And so when a supervisor position opened up at the task force, I applied and was appointed as the sergeant at the Drug Task Force, assigned there by the police department, and then eventually moved on to become the director.
So I'm going to tell you about the largest conspiracy case in Nashville history. I got a phone call from a contact. It was a pharmacist. They ran a local drugstore on the east side of town. The pharmacist said, "I've got a guy coming in and he's paying a large amount of cash for some prescription pills. Do you want to come do surveillance on him?" I said, "Absolutely." So you got to start small, and this was just like any other deal. I told the surveillance team, let's just cover the deal. Once the deal is done, let's follow the dealer off. Let's get the tag, as much information as we can, and then we will call it. We will pull off and let the dealer continue. A few weeks went by. We knew we needed to up our game and order up more cocaine. How big was this guy? How many kilos can he get us? We had to set up a 4th deal. But on this 4th deal, when we would order up our ounces of cocaine, it was going to equal 300 grams. 300 grams is the threshold to get a wiretap on someone.
A wiretap basically is getting the legal permission from the court to listen to someone's communications, whether it's a cell phone or in the old days a pager, or whether it's text messaging, or it's the courts giving you permission to intercept and hear or see that communication live as it's progressing.
In July 2014, we decided to flip the switch. As soon as we flipped the switch, we started getting some amazing calls. Calls to a Hispanic dealer who was from Texas, a source state for cocaine and other drugs. And he had a history with the Drug Task Force. Just 10 years prior, they busted him with more than 50 kilograms of cocaine in Nashville. So we quickly decided to wiretap the Hispanic's phone in hopes of capturing a large cocaine transaction and intercepting it when it comes to Nashville. Little did I know that one of the civilian monitors that were listening in on the wiretap was going to wreak havoc on the entire case.
I can't believe I'm actually talking about it right now because it was so beat into our heads, not literally. Don't talk about this, you do not know. Like, you literally don't even talk about it at church because you don't know who you're sitting by at church. I mean, that's just how hush-hush you were supposed to be.
For years, I just told people I did transcription. We really didn't talk about it, about what we did. We couldn't tell our friends, and there were a few reasons that were kind of illustrated to me in the course of some wires. Like, I think on one wire, my sister was one of the target's Facebook friends, but it was somebody that she knew tangentially, that she never would have had a conversation with. I think they might have known the same people in high school or something, and she just accepted his request. So, but that kind of illustrates why you need to kind of keep it quiet.
There is no person that hates a dirty cop worse than a cop. We set out to do a thorough investigation to figure out who the leak was. If it was an officer, they would pay. They would enter themselves into the conspiracy by committing one overt act, by notifying one of the targets we were wiretapping, who then dropped their telephone, or in other words, stopped talking about drugs on their phone. It was like a cat and mouse game with this guy. He was talking about drugs, he was in California, he was bringing things back, he was orchestrating deals and setting them up, and then all of a sudden, all the calls stopped. He didn't turn the phone off, he just only talked to one or two people on the phone. Nothing about drugs at all. We knew he had been tipped off. We just had to figure out who the leak was.
I just know that there was a target that seemed to find out that he was being investigated. So there was someone who had to have leaked it, and I know there was a little controversy as to who had leaked it. I don't think anybody had any malice at that point. I think people wanted to find out. The officers just wanted to get to the bottom of it.
Obviously, the confidentiality is critical for a lot of reasons. Really, first and foremost, though, you're trying to protect law enforcement and law enforcement's ability to continue to use that investigative tool by taking it so seriously that you're not running around talking about what you heard on the wire, the existence of a wire, things like that. Because if we start watering it down, the courts and the legislatures are going to say, well, y'all don't need this tool anymore. You're not taking it seriously enough. And so the serious nature of confidentiality was just, number one, to protect our ability to continue to use it. Number two, really to protect the criminals' Fourth Amendment rights. I mean, yes, it's a court order to listen to your phone, but at the same time, again, it's a pretty big invasion of privacy. And then beyond that, from a safety standpoint, just any person in a criminal organization, just their learning of the existence of a current wiretap can jeopardize not only the investigation, but the safety of the officers involved if the organization is aware of certain activities that we're not wanting them to be aware of.
So the leak, I'd have to stay neutral and just thank the Lord that it wasn't me or it didn't have anything to do with me. But it is unfortunate because it was the start of the end for the task force.
The leak from the wiretap came out, and it again involved another officer. That's the hardest thing as a police officer to do, is to point a finger at someone you know and someone you trusted. So this was an officer that we had trusted and didn't think, I really was didn't think that he was the leak, but based upon our information, that's what we had to follow up on. So once that leak transpired, or that information involving that officer, of course, I had to report that to my chain of command. Let me backstep. So as a part of that, there was an internal affairs investigation where a lot of the officers had to be interviewed. I was a part of that interview. The interview turned out was ugly. I defended myself, and the internal affairs investigator said, he had a timeline and I had a timeline. And so I told him his timeline was incorrect. And I said, hey man, you need to put these events in your timeline. And what's so important about that is the piece that needed to be in there was the piece that proved or confirmed that the leak occurred. So after the fact, I'm called into the office of the chief of police, and the next thing I know, because I had a disagreement with the internal affairs investigator, they're pulling me out of the drug task force, and I went and sat on the desk job for 175 days because the internal affairs investigator, one, had it wrong, and two, would not incorporate the facts that we had on the case into his timeline. It didn't fit his narrative.
As the leak got deeper and internal affairs heated up their investigation, there was one thing during my interview that the investigator said to me. He said, "You've already ruined enough lives. Just go ahead and pull the plug." Little did he know, the night before, we had finally identified a large-scale trafficker in Nashville. This person was on parole for the exact same thing, had the history for it, had the associates with a large, lengthy criminal past, all in dealing narcotics. So I knew I wasn't going to take it down. It wasn't an order, it was just a suggestion. By September 2014, the case had taken on a whole new level, gotten so much more busy. I was excited. I was happy that it was finally going well. And then when I heard the best intercepted phone call of the whole case, a 25-minute phone call talking about the kilograms coming in and how the panties were being taken off, which they're talking about the packaging, the taste of it, the prices, how the quality was A1 or looked like diamonds. I mean, this is something straight out of a movie. And these people were talking so openly on their phones about the quality of the kilogram levels of cocaine. I knew we had finally made it. No, we didn't have any cocaine in possession, and no, we did not arrest anybody at that time. But I knew with hard work, it's going to pay off. We just didn't know when. You have to wait for the right time to make the right move. You can't move too early, or you may miss the whole entire load. Or if you move too late, it could be moved or sold, and you could miss the whole thing. So our first big day, we set up and waited and watched as large dealers came to a house in North Nashville, one after the other, going in, coming out with large bags, 1 kilogram, 2 kilograms, 3 kilograms. How much was inside? Had no idea. At least 10 birds, but it wasn't time to move. We had to let it continue. We had to let it keep going, because someone brought those 10 kilograms of cocaine to that house, and we had no idea who. So that day, we watched multiple deals happen, all while collecting intel, all while following these dealers to their stash houses. Then I would prepare search warrants. Every single Sunday of this entire case, I came in, was typing. You have to do search warrants on homes, businesses, storage units, etc. But you have to do it within the law and legally. And I enjoyed that part. I enjoyed typing very articulate and lengthy search warrants, not leaving anything out, including everything within those four corners of that document. So when we hit those doors, I know the warrant is solid and it's never going to get suppressed.
There was a timeline that was going, a very good detailed, I don't even know how many pages this timeline was. And so we keep intercepting people and locations and identifying locations. So finally it got to where it was like, oh man, this is just too many places, too many people. You know, which houses, this guy may have 3 houses and this guy may have 2 houses and this guy's got 10 cars. So we ended up I kept a spreadsheet of, I think it was 51 locations to be searched. So our plan was to execute 51 search warrants in one day. That's a major overtaking because you have to have teams of people. I know we had every unit in the police department involved, and drug units in the surrounding counties involved. And so obviously as a supervisor involved in search warrants, you're entering someone's home. And my number one concern obviously is officer safety. With that large number of officers and locations, that was tough. But at the end of the day, we executed just about every search warrant that day with huge successes, and not one single person or one single police officer got injured or hurt. And that was a long, long day, and the quantity of drugs and money was just phenomenal. And what's crazy is this was only a small piece of that whole program. That was just one small chunk.
So those small busts just added to the probable cause that we were building over time to then in December of 2014, we knew that a load or shipment of kilos of cocaine had came into Nashville. So we made a decision, it was a quick decision, a last minute decision to intercept the 2 Hispanic brothers at BNA or the Nashville airport, where we continued the investigation. It was on a Sunday, and then Monday we had a huge bust, about 30 kilos of cocaine, hundreds of pounds of marijuana, hundreds of guns, seized cars, houses. That then led to solidify another part of the investigation where the same players were involved, but they had a different source of supply.
Just so the court kind of has an idea or overview of this, how long was this investigation going on?
It began in April of 2014.
And when were the arrests of these defendants made?
December 8, 2014.
And the culmination of this investigation that wrapped up on that date in December, 19 people were originally arrested, correct?
That's correct.
And during that, the ongoing investigation and the culmination, how much cocaine was actually seized?
I believe it was totaled, the 8, to be over 27 kilograms of cocaine, I think over 70 pounds of marijuana, 70 plus guns, also heroin, pills, with over $440,000 cash, and obviously other items including electronics and vehicles.
And this culminated in about how many search warrants?
I believe on the 8th there was about 50 executed.
And that included Davidson County and some other counties, is that correct?
Davidson County, Rutherford County, Sumner County, and Williamson County. The second half of the case, 1422B, targeted a totally separate drug dealer. I remember one morning very early, we used trackers. Put trackers on people's vehicles all the time. Of course, you have to get a search warrant for that, and we did every single time. Now, we just needed to wait for the right time. We had decided the next load that comes in, we're gonna take this case down. I'm gonna round everybody up, see what they have to say. Well, the case ended a lot quicker than what we thought. One ordinary, typical morning, all of us working in the office, typing away, catching up on phone calls, talking about the case. When we noticed we get an alert, we were ready to roll like we were in December. It was me, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and a federal unit. Using a ram, boom! Shatter the door open. 10 agents move in. Within seconds, what do you hear on the radio? 2 in custody. That's some of the best sounding words in law enforcement. In custody, no violence, no one's hurt, everybody's safe. It's gonna be a good day. After searching about 2 hours, we're coming up with all kind of good evidence. Money counters, axle grease, hidden compartments, cash, weapons. So one of the agents walked over to an entertainment center. I thought he was just playing around and broke it. But what happened is he uncovered one of the largest cash seizures of this case. $400,000+ packed into an entertainment center. We were jumping up and down. It was awesome. I actually called the patrol officer to bring the 2 guys back just so they could see what we found.
Takedown day is always the most memorable, I think, of any wiretap case for a lot of reasons. Number one, you know, you're actually finally getting your hands on the evidence, right? And you're getting to interview these guys that you've really gotten to know super well, even though they don't realize it. You know, you finally get to interview them and talk to them. And, you know, you've lived their life for months on end. Plus, you've worked so hard, not seeing your family. You know, we spent more time with each other than we ever did our families. And so it's a culmination of all that work for you to be able to, you know, see the fruits of your labor right there in front of you, whether it's, you know, a big pile of dope or cash or guns or, you know, a murder weapon or whatever the case may be. Those are always the most memorable, but also because you can kind of take a deep breath, not on takedown day. Takedown days last several days, but once that's done, you finally kind of feel a sense of relief that I can sleep again now, and I can see my family, and, you know, until the next one starts. But, you know, on 14/22, both takedown days were super memorable.
So as far as the most serious moment, I would say doesn't even involve my safety or our team's safety in general. And sometimes we may get complacent on certain things, like executing 51 search warrants where we're knocking in the doors, we're going into the unknown where we have no idea who's behind that door, that bedroom. Do they have a gun? Do they have a shotgun? We don't know. I would say that the moment was when the chief of police at that time came into the office and told us that he was moving the drug task force from the DA's office to the police department. So even though he said, like I remember it was yesterday, he said it's going to be a seamless transition. No way. We knew better to think it was going to be a seamless transition. And from that day forward, everything unraveled, everything fell apart. And really, that was the downfall of the drug task force.
It's like mixing oil and water. It just does not mix. It causes a mess. And you got little clusters of people here, and you know, everyone's fighting for the same space, and it's just, it makes for a bad mix. And politically, that's what happened to me, in my mind, what happened with the drug task force.
I never thought the task force would shut down, especially forever. So I just hope that all the relationships that I built while I was there, I hope everyone knows how grateful I was that we got to work together or be a part of each other's lives when we were. And I hope that all the case officers and men that work there, they're able to spend time now with their families and their loved ones, because I knew and I saw firsthand how long and how hard they did work. So being a police officer's wife got to be one of the awesome things, but a downfall for any woman. But my final thoughts, it was a great time. 15 years is a long time to work somewhere and then just have to say goodbye.
Sad. It was a sad time because I think they had a really good operation going, and I think just with, there'd been a change in leadership at the DA's office, and I think that just kind of started maybe a snowball that just kind of ended up taking it out, and it's a shame because they were there for, those guys worked out of that, well, not out of that building, but they worked out of that unit for a long time and did a lot of good work, and I think they would still be doing good work if they hadn't been shut down. I think it was prematurely. I think it's a shame.
To be honest with you, prior to becoming district attorney, and I'm speculating here, but he had represented a lot of these guys, and I don't think he was a fan of the drug task force. I don't know why. I don't know if it was I don't think it was necessarily the work. I think it was over the years, maybe the conversations, relationships, arguments, whatever he had with, not only the DA's office, but the investigators and things like that. So I think there was some genuine bad blood there to start with. And I think this was just an opportunity for him to do what he felt like should have been done all along, and that was get rid of the drug task force in Nashville.
So TF 1422 was culminated in March of 2015. On the books was over 100 kilograms of cocaine, over 200 pounds of cocaine was seized in Nashville. Millions of dollars in cash and assets were seized, taken off the streets so they don't go back to the cartels of Mexico. And a short 3 months later, we were notified by the district attorney that he no longer wanted the drug task force under the DA's office. So this is sort of what started the conversation about the chief of police taking a look at putting the drug task force under the Metro Nashville Police Department. Our director of the drug task force was an active board member, of course, of the 20th Drug Task Force, but yet had absolutely no vote because the chief and the district attorney both agreed to essentially dismantle the 20th Drug Task Force. The people that worked there, all the work that was put in. The unit had been there for 28 years. A lot of drug task forces are funded by government grants, although the 20th was not funded by government grants. It was self-funded. So this was a fully functional, very capable unit of getting the drugs off the streets and making a huge impact in the community. And these two political leaders literally got rid of this. So can I put my finger on exactly why? No. But I think that these two very powerful people, really politicians, could not get along, and there was some sort of fallout that I can't put my thumb on, but regardless, it affected not only my life, but the livelihood of the team members, the people at the office, the wire room monitors who were supplementing income by doing the wire room duties. There was also assistant district attorneys that were working at our office as well. So there's all these people that were affected by the decisions of a couple of powerful people. And the most important piece of this is crime has skyrocketed. If you check the last 5-6 years since the dismantling of the drug task force, crime has just risen to a new level. Murders left and right, and no one talks about it. Nashville is the it city. It's a great city. It's a great place to come, hang out, be down on Broadway, country music. It's a great place to be. I'm gonna live here the rest of my life. But no one talks about the drugs that are flowing into this city. And I think there's a reason behind that, is because they don't want you to know. Working my way up to the drug task force wasn't easy. And the hard work that I put in is something that helped me start my business and maintain a successful business, and now starting a foundation or a nonprofit. So I think that a long time I thought that nothing I did in my previous law enforcement career was something that was helpful or good, but I totally take all that back, because the things that I was able to do the 11 years I was with Metro only made me the person I am today. I had one particular supervisor that was always trying to get me in trouble, just always on my back, breathing down my neck, trying to make decisions for me in my own career. Well, during this time also, my dad was sick with cancer, and I wanted to make him proud because he was in law enforcement and he had since retired. So I kind of wanted to almost show him things that I could do and how capable I was. So I'll never forget it. It was after the December takedown. We were downstairs in the warehouse. I was looking around. There's cars and items stacked up and cash, and we're putting things in the vault and kilos everywhere. And I look at my supervisor at the time, who was a great friend and mentor, Jeff Goodwin, and I just hugged him. I said, man, this is awesome. So at that moment, that was probably the most defining moment of my career, where I felt like I had accomplished so much. Like, I set out to do this wiretap, and people told me, when we found out about the leak, they told me, take this down. Take this case down. Do not continue. You've ruined people's lives already because of this case, because you won't take it down. So I just kept going and going and going. And I didn't do this by myself. My team was there, right there with me every step of the way. But there was a time that they were frustrated, I was frustrated, so it was difficult. But the small team that we had was able to produce the largest cocaine seizure, largest wiretap case in Nashville history.